Before we do that, why don't we stand, take your caps off, and let's say the pledge and prayer, please. Todd Abshire.
Good morning, everyone. Please join me in prayer first. Dear Heavenly Father, we do thank you for this day that you've given us and for getting us here safely and helping all of us make it through the storm. We thank you for the breakfast that we're going to get this morning. We ask that you would use it to nourish our bodies, Father. Please be with our homes while we're gone, Father, and keep all of our family safe while we're away. Be with us while we're here. Help these operators get some knowledge and training to take back to their systems, Father. Please be with us and keep us safe and help us to get home safely also. We thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ, and we pray this in his name. Amen. Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
All right, Miss Marilyn, we ready? Well, we have some that didn't show up yet because of some of the flooding, but they're Miss Marilyn, are we ready? Was that a yes or no? All right. On them to get breakfast ready. The congressman has to head back to Washington, D.C., so I'm going to go ahead and get him up here to speak to us. Glenn, is the congressman with you? Okay. Ralph Abraham was born and raised in Louisiana. He grew up breaking horses and building fences on a farm in Richland Parish near where he and his wife of 43 years, Diane, still reside. He is currently serving his third term in Congress and represents Louisiana's 5th Congressional District. He has served on a half dozen committees, including the House Agriculture Committee and the House Committee on Veterans Affairs. He has helped us out in Congress with funding since he's been there. He's one of the congressmen that when we visit, he's one of the guys that tells us, sit down and let me know what's going on in Louisiana. So please put your hands together for Congressman Ralph Abraham.
Well, thank you for allowing me to speak, and Pat, thank you for shuffling the schedule a little bit. Yeah, the speaker's thrown a few curveballs at us today, so we've got to get back to D.C. and do some important votes before the day ends. So I appreciate you allowing me to speak a little early. I love a group that starts any conversation with the prayer and the pledge. We need to continue to do that, and it's, in my opinion, what we stand for as a country and certainly globally as a nation. I also want to thank you for doing what you do. When y'all's people come up to Congress and come tell us what they need, what they're doing, I'm old enough now where few things impress me, but what you men and women do on a statewide basis is impressive. I mean, we know you serve 64 parishes. I'm actually in District 8 of your rural water districts. But when I looked at the statistics and some of the data that y'all's people have brought me in D.C., it looks like you serve 27 or 2,800 water systems. You make almost 8,000 technical visits a year, technical assistance visits to these communities that water is based on rural systems. And we talk about infrastructure, we talk about roads and bridges and how important that is, that we are behind here in Louisiana, that we are behind in the nation. But you and I both know water is like oxygen. If you don't have it, you die. So we've got to prioritize the water systems, both the drinking water and the wastewater systems that you guys and ladies take care of for us. And if we don't do that, then really nothing else matters. Now, Pat alluded to the fact that I hope I'm your best supporter and will carry the flag for you as far as getting money that you need from the EPA, from the USDA, but also on a state level, I know that you receive some funding from the LDEQ, the LDH, and even the general fund. But I looked at the budget because, as you know, we're running a campaign on the state level. And once you divide it by your 64 parishes, from the state level, you guys are just getting crumbs. We need to do better than that because, again, I know, I live in rural communities, and I know how hard it is to keep that water clean enough, pure enough to not only shower in, bathe our children and grandchildren in, but to drink. And then it's the wastewater system, which, again, you know your business better than I do, that is as important as the drinking water. So on the federal level, when President Obama was the president, on the Republican side, we did work with him to pass a bipartisan highway trust fund bill. And it was in the billions and billions of dollars of your money and my money, taxpayer money. I still pay a lot of taxes too. So what we've got to do in this Congress, you've seen how divisive it is in D.C. right now. And I can tell you it is. This is my third term, and I can tell you I've never seen the vitriol and I'd hate to say it, the hate that's up there right now. But what we've got to do for public safety, because it trumps everything we talk about in politics, it trumps everything we talk about in life. For public safety's sake, we have got to come together as a body bipartisanly and pass an infrastructure bill that allows us to definitely have our roads and bridges and ports and waterways. But again, I go back to the importance of having water systems that are actually potable and workable. And if we don't do that, then we have failed the nation as a body. So we've got to put aside politics, and that's hard to do in D.C., unfortunately. And there are some of the upstarts that will not, come heck or high water, work with President Trump. But again, we've got to put that silo aside and make sure we do what's right for us as a people. So that's where we're working. That's where we're going, I hope. And possibly before the end of this fiscal year, you will see an infrastructure bill come to fruition on the congressional level. On the state level, we have the same issues. Our infrastructure is just terrible. We've got to work on it. We've got to get it better. We've got to get you, men and women, more money from both of the three of those funds that I told you, so we can make y'all's job a little easier. And I know how hard it is to have to go out on some of these systems sometimes, almost like firemen and policemen in the middle of the night in storms. When things go south, you guys are the ones that get the phone call. So we appreciate that, but we need to make sure that you have the resources, the money, the equipment that you need. And I know you do a lot of technical assistance, so I know there's equipment involved there to get your job done. That's our responsibility to you, is to give you the resources you need to do your job. So we appreciate that. Thanks, Pat. And you'll hear me go around the state as we campaign on the state side for the governorship. You hear me say about how our taxes are. We're going to cut those, about infrastructure. But the thing that I think you'll hear me say more than anything, and I've said this my entire political career, even before we looked at the state race, Tip O'Neill pretty much had it right. All politics is local. And we, as your government representatives and your elected officials, should give you the resources, the money, the things that you need on a local level to do your job. I have no clue how to do your job, and I can assure you 99% of the people outside these doors don't either, but you do. So we need to give you those tools in your toolbox on the local level. You know where the money needs to go. You know how it needs to be spent. And we need to get out of your business and just provide the resources that you need to get your job done in a most efficient manner that, again, goes back to the public safety side. So again, thank you. Again, I know a lot of you here. I look through the crowd. A lot of you are good friends because, as you know, I am on the agriculture committee, been in agriculture all my life. So I touch you guys and ladies in one form or another. So it's nice to be home, and it's nice to be in a crowd that actually knows how to do their job and knows how to work. So what we're going to do is we're going to work on the federal level for you. We're going to try to get these infrastructure packages done. We're going to try to make sure you have funding on the federal level. On the state level, I pledge that we're going to make your resources more plentiful, better, and of everything else, an easier access. You got Carrie Castile here, who's phenomenal, and you know, she works wonderfully well in D.C. and on the state level. And if we had more like her, we would be in a much better shape. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Most people here have my personal cell number. If you need me, you call me. We will certainly get it done. And if you need, give me a call. Thank you so much.
All right, let's tell him thank you one more time, please. Thank you, Congressman. All right, Rusty, where are you? Rusty?
Mr. Mayor, the stage is ready.
All right, where do you want him to go? Everybody line up on that wall. We'll go ahead and eat breakfast, and then we'll get the other speakers up here. Thank you for bearing with me this morning.
Everybody line up on the south wall. Come down the south wall, folks. Thank you, Patrick. Just got a couple of quick announcements. One thing on the 24-hour technical courses that starts this morning, you have the choice of what class that you go into throughout this conference from here till Thursday morning. So as you go on the second floor, you'll pick what class you go in. Make sure that you scan in and scan out of them classes, because that's how we are tracking your attendance for this conference. We'll look at things at the end of the day, review it, and make sure that everybody is scanned in and scanned out. This session here this morning is part of your 24-hour curriculum. Lunch today is part of your 24-hour curriculum. The exhibit hall this afternoon till 6 p.m. is part of your 24-hour curriculum. Now, if you want to leave at 5 o'clock, that's up to you, but you're going to get credit for the time that you stay in the exhibit hall. Tomorrow's award ceremony is part of your 24-hour curriculum. You need to make sure that you scan in and scan out. And then on Thursday's lunch is part of your 24-hour curriculum. And as you look at the agenda on Thursday morning, you'll also see that we have a 2-hour exhibit hall tour. That in that exhibit hall, there's going to be anywhere from 10 to 12 exhibitors set up in 30-minute blocks to provide demonstrations either at their booths or right outside the Civic Center. Now, all that is part of your curriculum. It's very important. If you're here for 24 hours, and you got to have every 24 hours, you need to be in every event we do for the next 3 days. And scan in and scan out. There'll be blocks set up at the door. I know this morning a lot of y'all, we had to scan out, went to the bathroom and scan back in. If it was one person out the hall, I can keep track of it. But if it's 25 of y'all out there, I can't remember who went out and who come back in. It's just accountability, folks. The system that we've worked on with CNA and Associates for the last year is really pretty quick and pretty accurate. Well, it's very accurate. It tells me exactly when you went in and exactly when you left. The other thing, the weather this week has caused a couple of our presenters not to be able to be here with us today. And we got on the 24-hour agendas, we've got a couple of different changes that you may want to make note of. The first one is in the 24-hour water and wastewater topics. On page 20, Mr. Rick Moore with GOSEP was supposed to give us a presentation on security and current threats. He's unable to attend because of the events going on this week. And Mr. John Swartz with USA Blue Book is going to give us a presentation in that session in regards to emergency response and security for your water systems. And then also this morning, 10:30 to 12 in the water topics, and that's on page 22 of your agenda. Amanda Ames with the Health Department was unable to make it here today due to the flooding events. And Mr. Stephen Jober, and Stephen, I apologize if I got that wrong.
It's Joe Bear.
Joe Bear. Jubert. And see there? Now you got me in trouble, Patrick.
Well, I'm a coon ass, so.
Okay. All right. So he is going to do a presentation in the water topics, and it's going to be on ball advisories, issuing and rescinding ball advisories during events. So them's the two changes for today, and we'll update you tomorrow in regards to the changes that will be made for tomorrow. Enjoy the conference. We appreciate you being here, and I'm going to turn it back over to Patrick, and we'll get our next speaker up here.
Thank you, Rusty. I appreciate it. I want you up here during this panel as well, Rusty. All right. Oh, you have a name up here, so you can go get some breakfast if you want and come back up here. Our next speaker is Mr. Kent Watson. Kent was educated at both Lon Morris College and Sam Houston State University. He earned both water and wastewater licenses and began a career of operating, owning, and managing water utilities for over 40 years. He has served on the board of directors of the Texas Rural Water Association for 30 years and as president of the board for 4 years. He is currently serving and doing a good job, I might say. He's currently serving as president of the National Rural Water Association. Please help me welcome the president of National Rural Water, Mr. Kent Watson.
Good morning, Louisiana Rural Water.
Morning.
It is exciting to be back with you again today. I was here about 4 years ago, and I enjoyed it so well I decided to come back. And your breakfast was great this morning. I also want to say thanks on behalf of my wife and myself for the hospitality that you've shown us since we've been here. It's been exciting to be here amongst people that I can relate to. As Pat mentioned, I am a water and wastewater operator. I got into the business 40 years ago, so I know what you're going through. I know the challenges that you face. I know the work that you do. And I sympathize with you, but I applaud you for what you do because you're the ones that make it happen. I got into the wastewater and water business 40 years ago, and it's been a labor of love through the years, and I really enjoy what I do. And I appreciate you being here today and getting your training and your hours for your licenses. It's very important. And I want to say thanks to Louisiana Rural Water, their staff, your ED, Pat Crater. Pat, I appreciate everything that you do and that your association does. I will say, Louisiana Rural Water Association is a premier association in the United States. Y'all do a great job. You're nationally recognized on emergency response and in a lot of other areas, and I applaud you for that. I also want to say thanks to my fellow director from Louisiana, Glenn Womack and his wife Judy, for their friendship and the time I've got to spend with them through the years on the board. Glenn serves as our secretary of our national board and does a great job. I do bring you greetings this morning from the National Rural Water Association. the nation's largest water utility association with over 30,000 members nationwide. Yes, nationwide, all 50 states are represented, including Hawaii and Alaska. There's rural water associations all across the United States. You know, having been in the water business for many, many years, I run into the same thing over and over and over again, and that is people like you, the salt of the earth, no matter what state I go to, and I do get the honor and the privilege to travel around the great United States and visit with different water associations, and everywhere I go, I can relate to those people because they're my extended family. The rural water family of America. Everywhere you go, the people are the same, just really good people. Now, I understand you and you understand me, and some parts of the United States I go to, they don't understand me. And that's because sometimes we speak a little language. I was up in a northeastern state a couple of years ago and spoke up there, and when I was starting to leave, the executive director up there told me, said, Watson said, we sure would like for you to come back sometime. Said, we really enjoyed your company and your speech, and so if you would come back sometime, but next time you come, bring an interpreter with you. So we may be a little different in a little different part of the country, but we're all the same. We're involved in rural water, and we're here to help people. This is a service industry. We provide the service for the customers that we serve. Some exciting things are happening at LRWA. I'm going to mention just a few things here today that's going on with National Rural Water. And you're going to hear more and more about our apprenticeship program. National Rural Water Association was able to get approved through the Department of Labor a national apprenticeship program. And now, across the United States, we have 18 states that have approved apprenticeship programs. Now, apprenticeship programs is what it amounts to is employees are getting into the business, the younger employees trying to get a career started, and the apprenticeship program is what is so important because as I look out across this crowd today, I see a lot of aging infrastructure, like myself. And so, we have to have younger people being involved, and you're going to see that through the apprenticeship program. We are getting started a rural water credit union, which should launch by the end of the year. This is going to open up a lot of doors for rural water utilities and rural water associations, and will allow you an opportunity to borrow money through that credit union. One thing that we're still celebrating, we've been celebrating since December, and that's the passage of the 2018 Farm Bill that was passed and signed in December of this last year. It was passed by the largest majority of any farm bill ever. Now, this is a 5-year document that we're going to be able to live with. The good thing about it is that it was very good to rural water. And some of the things in the Farm Bill that you may or may not know about, it does more than any other farm bill before when it comes to rural water and wastewater. There's more money. There's more money for programs. There's more money for loans and grants. It expands the guaranteed program, the guaranteed loan program. It also maintains the 1926B federal debt protection, which is so important to a lot of people in a lot of different states. It increases also the amount that you can borrow from the revolving loan fund in which the National Rural Water Association administers. We're going to talk about that just a little bit more in a second. But the mission of the National Rural Water Association is to strengthen state associations. And we try our very best to strengthen states like Louisiana and my home state of Texas and every state in any way that we can. We do that by working with governmental agencies such as the Department of Agriculture, USDA, EPA, Farm Service Agency, Department of Labor, all of the federal agencies that we work with. We spread the word about rural water and wastewater. NRWA has a lobby team in Washington, D.C. that no doubt is the best lobby team of any national association that deals with water or wastewater. We have 4 lobbyists that are full-time that work there in Washington, D.C. that help bring the money back to the states for you. We do have circuit riders in every state in the United States, both water and wastewater. And we have 28 states that have energy efficiency programs, and I'm happy to say, Pat, that y'all are the recipient of one of those. This last cycle, we received 8 more positions, and Louisiana was one of those, as long as a wastewater tech also will be added to Louisiana Rural Water. So there are things out there that we're trying to strengthen the state associations. Source water protection is one of the key things that National Rural Water does. 53 full-time source water protectionists across the United States working each and every day to make the source water a better water for each one of us. National Rural Water has a number of affinity programs that we have provided to help the states in some ways. Some states are involved and some are not. Depending on the state, we have the affinity programs of Serve-Line Insurance, which is a leak protection insurance for your customer base. We have data breach insurance. We have rural water impact and municipal impact. We have healthy benefits insurance. That for health insurance, we have the Dodge and Ford fleet programs where you can buy off of the contract under a fleet number if that is good for you. We have the Water Pro community on our website that you can go to and you can talk to other people about issues that you're having, whether it be water or wastewater, and you can communicate with them. Also, Water University. Water University is a tool where you can learn and become nationally recognized as a graduate of Water University. One thing I mentioned a while ago that I said we were going to talk about a little bit later, and that is the revolving loan fund. The revolving loan fund is an affinity program, but it's also in partnership with USDA. USDA gives National Rural Water a set amount of money each year, and we're allowed to lend that money out in small increments to water utilities across the United States. So through the revolving loan fund, and I love to talk about this because it's an exciting fund and it's really geared towards small utilities. Right now, the most that you can borrow from that revolving loan fund is $100,000. Later this year, it will increase to $200,000. The good thing about this fund is you can access that money really quick. Within 2 weeks, you can get your money. Now, I know that sounds kind of ridiculous, but it's true. You don't have to use it for a particular reason. If you have office remodeling that you need to do, if you have a meter change-out program that you're working on, if you have saved up enough money to almost drill that new water well, but you still like another $100,000, that's the place to go. And so you can contact Pat through their state association. They can get the forms to you. You can fill those out, and you can borrow that money quick and easy, and poverty rate interest. And it's just it's a great fund that you should try to access if you get an opportunity. The Rural Water Rally that we have each February in Washington, D.C., some of you have been able to go before. I would urge that. You're able to go and talk to your representatives like Congressman Abraham here this morning and be able to spread the word about rural water. And that's where it all takes place, because the money that's approved in Washington, D.C. comes through National Rural Water into the states to help you with your job. Our Water Pro Conference is in September of each year. This year we're going to be in Nashville, Tennessee. It's going to be the week of September 9th, 10th, and 11th. And I would urge you to go to that if you, in any way possible, that you can do that. It has been a pleasure being here with you this week, and will enjoy being here all the way till Thursday when we leave out. And my wife and I feel very welcome here in Louisiana. So it was only a 3-hour drive for me over here, so we really enjoyed. And for that, I say thanks to you, fellow board members, fellow operators. You do a great job. And I want to leave you this morning with 3 words: live, love, and laugh. Take the good with the bad, smile with the sad. Love what you got, remember what you had. Always forgive, learn from mistakes. People change, things go wrong. Just remember, life goes on. Thank you, and may God bless. Thank you.
This morning, we'll have a panel discussion with several of the state and federal partners up here to take some of your questions and talk to you about the
Yes, sir.
about the Rural Water Infrastructure Committee. One of our guests that's coming up here in a second is Dr. Carrie Castile. She has worked on agriculture and rural issues for almost 20 years. She is a graduate of the University of Louisiana at Lafayette and was the first woman inducted to the College of Engineering's Hall of Distinction. She holds a master's degree in environmental studies and a doctoral degree in renewable natural resources for LSU. As state director of USDA, she uses her leadership experience to oversee rural development programs in a customer-focused manner to restore prosperity in rural Louisiana. Welcome, Dr. Castile, please. Our next panelist was Amanda Ames with the Department of Health. She was not able to make it today. The governor's got them still in emergency response mode. So we'll move on to the next guest. Our next guest is Leslie Durham. She is the Governor John Bell Edwards designee to the Delta Regional Authority. Governor Edwards has just recently appointed her to the jobs for American Graduate Louisiana Board of Directors and to the Rural Water Infrastructure Committee. Please welcome Leslie. Our next panelist is Tracy Watts. Tracy serves as Director of Louisiana Community Development Block Grant, the Local Government Assistance Grant, and the Community Water Enrichment Fund programs. She graduated in 1992 from Northwestern State University with a BA in Humanities, and in 2009 she graduated from LSU with a Master's in Public Administration. Please help welcome Tracy. Sierra's here. Sierra Trudeau graduated from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas with a Bachelor of Science in Accounting and Business Administration with a minor in Business Law. She is in her 9th year of working on the Clean Water State Revolving Loan Fund for the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality and has managed it for the past 3 years. She will receive her Master of Business Administration with a concentration in finance in August. Please welcome Sierra. You want to get this thing started?
Yes, sir. All right, folks. I guess about 4 years ago, we started working together as a group and we've always worked with rural water with USDA, Department of Health and Hospitals, DEQ, and the different funding agencies in the state. And probably 4 years ago, we got a little project and everybody kind of run at the wits' ends and didn't know what to do. And we started reaching out and we wound up contacting Delta Regional Authority. And they got involved with us and we helped a system that was struggling, was failing. The customers was totally dissatisfied to the point that in a vote one night of 131 votes, 127 was to give ourselves to the neighboring water system. And from that group, the governor seen some things that had happened, and he formed the RWIC committee, and in this past legislative session, actually it was codified, and I'm going to let Ms. Leslie Durham explain what that means and how this group is going to reach out to help water systems. And it's not all water systems are failing. Don't get us wrong. There's some water systems out there that's shining examples. And we want to help all of them become a shining example, something of recognition in their community. Now I'm going to let Ms. Leslie explain to you how the governor put this committee together.
Thank you, Rusty. Good morning. I commend you for coming in at such an early hour. I know a lot of you were studying. I saw some taking notes and going over notes this morning, and I commend you for the commitment that you have for the communities that you serve. That's on a level that most people don't understand, but this panel here definitely understands, definitely wants to help you and what you do, because we understand, and your governor understands. So after he took office, 2016, there was a bottle of water on his desk. So he came in, sat down, he said, "Am I supposed to drink this?" It was brown. And they said, "No, that's St. Joseph's water. That's what they're drinking." So at that point, he made a commitment, made it a priority for rural water to be one of his priorities. Everyone should have good, safe, clean drinking water. So he got to work on that. During that year, the situation Rusty was talking about came up, and we had to actually combine our efforts to be able to help this community. Well, that worked, and the governor was watching. We had to combine not just local but state and federal agencies to make it happen. So we started doing that some more to a few other communities, to other water systems. And so to make it to where we could do this on a regular basis, we had to bring it to the legislature to let them know what was going on. And they decided that we needed to codify that issue, that effort. So what we're doing, we came in and we started helping some communities. But in the process, we got to looking at why we are here, why we're having these issues. So we got to actually look in the mirror. When we did, we realized that some of our agencies or some of our policies were causing some of our problems. So to be able to fix the problem of 58% of our failing infrastructure in Louisiana that we are not able to fix, we had to take a hard look. So what you're going to hear today is a lot of changes that have been made, that are in the process of being made. And what their whole goal is to combine all of our efforts, our data. We're sharing data between our agencies. We are seeing how we can maximize our dollars with yours to be able to accomplish what we need to. Because you can't do it on your own. I think you will agree. You can't do it on your own. The state can't do it by itself. We have enough budget problems, and we can't hardly get an agreement. Finally got a budget this year or last year, and we're working with a surplus. We're able to breathe a little bit now. But you know how that fight has been. In the federal side, we can't expect them to come in and bail us all out every time. But if we can all work together, then we can accomplish many things. And that's what we're doing, actually.
So, Ms. Leslie, you want to tell a little bit about what Delta Regional Authority offers to the state in projects and stuff like that there?
I'm glad you made that point. Delta Regional Authority is a federal organization that covers 8 states up and down the Mississippi River and Alabama. And the state actually gets to allocate funds through the Delta Regional Authority as grants. So there's not a loan, it's grant money. And one of the priorities is infrastructure. And I got to looking at some data, and during the time that Governor Edwards has been in office, Louisiana has received over $10 million through the Delta Regional Authority for projects, and over $8 million has been for infrastructure. I think that's a pretty good indication of where his priorities are. That money is used to leverage other dollars. So if you have a grant from Tracy over there with CDBG, you need a little bit more money, you need some match money, and you just don't have it, the Delta Regional Authority can match state funds. If you have a project with USDA and you need just a little bit of match money, that's something that the Delta Regional Authority can do as well. And that's really what they're designed to do, is raise the federal participation. So it's federal money that can match other federal money, and it can also match state funding as well.
Okay, and on the RWIC committee, and we're going to get to the other panel guests here, but on the RWIC committee, who all is represented on that committee? What agencies, what resources?
Okay, you put me on the spot there because we just added a few. When we were making our legislation and talking to legislators, we were really kind of surprised at some folks that came out and decided they wanted to be on the committee. And we thought, my goodness, where have y'all been? We needed help. We've been needing help. Where have y'all been? But we have, of course, we have USDA, we have LDH, we have DEQ, we have CDBG, Tracy Watts. And one of our big backbone, of course, is the Louisiana Rural Water Association. They are with us, your circuit riders. That's who we have to have our information from first. Whenever we get a call, that's who we call first, to call Rusty. And sometimes, y'all, it's on the weekends, and sometimes it's at night. We work those hours same as y'all do. I say, okay, they don't have water. What's going on? What do we need to do? How fast do we need to get in there? How quick can we get in there? But so we have rural water. We also have the Municipal Association. We have the Police Jury Association. We have your planning districts. Your planning districts actually have grant writers and grant coordinating capabilities to be able to help you piece the puzzles together. Now we have the Public Service Commission. We have the Commissioner of Agriculture. And why do we have the Commissioner of Agriculture? Because he wanted to be on there. But he plays a vital role with agriculture because of the amount of rural communities we have in the state. So there's 17 now altogether. Who else am I missing? LMA, please, sure.
Public Service.
Yeah.
Governor's Office, Representative, GOSEF.
GOSEP, we have the president of the Senate, the Speaker of the House. We have the Rural Caucus Chair. And I think that's. I mean, we're trying to remember over here. Sorry about that.
Don't let her rack her brain.
Yeah, because it'll hurt. We have the governor's staff. We've got like 3 members of the governor's staff on the committee. So we have a good little swap of federal, state, and local representation on your behalf. And it's really, we have that as our committee. Then we have a smaller committee. We call it the IRT. It's the Initial Response Team. They thought the IRT didn't sound military. I'm trying to figure that one out, but sounds kind of military to me. But what we do, when you have an issue, we can come in quickly and get an assessment, talk to you, work with you directly, and then report back to the committee as to what the needs are, what's being met, what's not being met, and what we can do, try to combine our efforts to figure out how to help you.
All right, Ms. Leslie. I'm going to move on down to my right, to the very end there, Dr. Castile with USDA, and ask her to explain how USDA fits in first and funding water and wastewater systems and other projects in your community, but then also their role in this RWIC committee of helping water systems and wastewater systems. Dr. Castile?
Thank you. Thank you. So good morning. Let me first tell you just my first observation, being able to look around the room and being able to see the number of dedicated professionals that we have to improving Louisiana's water infrastructure systems. This is great to be able to see so many people that are dedicated to the role and dedicated to our natural resources the way that you are. So thank you for everything that you've done for us. I can tell you, coming into this role and looking at who our partners are, Pat Crater and Rusty were the first two people that came to visit me. They came to Alexandria, they sat with me. I had an idea as to what Louisiana Rural Water Association did, but not nearly the impact that they have in the state. So I can tell you the partnership is invaluable, and thank you for everything you've done. In addition to that, we had all of the state directors come to New Orleans for a meeting, and we hosted them there, and Louisiana Rural Water Association was a sponsor. And our state directors were, I think, surprised, amazed, and impressed with the partnerships that we have, especially in water infrastructure. We are the envy of most states. Most of my colleagues said, we don't get together the way that you do and have these conversations because there's competition amongst funding agencies in other states. Here, we're here to make sure that we provide the resources to communities that need them. I don't care where it comes from. If it's the federal government, our state, whoever, DRA, it does not matter to me. What's important to me is to make sure that the resources are getting to the communities that need them. I also want to thank Mr. Kent. Thank you from National Rural Water Association. I will tell you that I was in DC last week and we had an opportunity to talk about how we spend our dollars at USDA Rural Development. LRWA continues to be part of the conversation, continues to be part of the partnership, and we're lucky that we have them to be able to partner with us. We've provided some resources through the national office, and it's something that I think has really paid off for us in dividends. So thank you for your commitment and partnership. Lastly, I do want to introduce my staff. You've probably seen Tony Matlock floating around, but Tony Matlock has been promoted to our community programs as our director. So thank you, Tony, for everything you do. Tony comes with a wealth of knowledge. A lot of you have seen him at meetings. He really does a tremendous job for our state, as well as Karen Lawson. Karen's normally behind the camera. Karen is our public affairs specialist and does a fantastic job in making sure that our communities know that we have resources available. So the first thing that I'll tell you going into our programs is we have monies available. So we are we are over the midway point for our fiscal year, which ends on September 30th, and we have resources available. We were blessed last year that we received an additional $4 billion. $4 billion nationally. If that doesn't tell you the needs of what, and the job and the role of what we have to do, it's really incredible, and we were blessed that Congress had the confidence in us to be able to get these resources out the door and work with our partners. We were lucky that we spent about $3.2 billion of those monies, and I will tell you, it was, as a woman, I didn't think it was going to be that difficult to spend that much money, but it was, because of some of the challenges that we have, because of working with the communities that really don't understand and can't identify exactly what needs to be fixed. So going to Louisiana Rural Water Association, when we get a call, normally we say, have you worked with LRWA yet? And if they say, nope, we say that's probably the first place that you need to call. And so being able to do that and being able to have them come in and help assess those resources and exactly what the needs are, it's a game changer. It really is. It expedites our process. So rural development, last year we spent over $100 million here in Louisiana rural communities. Those are populations of 10,000 and less. So most of you know that we have our water and environmental programs with the goal of improving our drinking water and our sanitary systems. We work with communities, again, 10,000 and less, but I'm really excited to say that we're working on a new guaranteed program that's going to up those limits to 50,000. We don't know when those rules are going to be finalized. We're looking at about a year down the road. But it gives us the ability to be able to go into these communities like Opelousas that are 12,000 or 13,000 in population. We never want to say from rural development, we're not in a position to be able to help you. We want to say, we want to be able to help you. Here's some of our partners, and let's see what we can do in working together. Working with Delta Regional Authority, community, the Village of Maurice, working with the Louisiana Department of Health and Hospitals, working with LDEQ. We take our partnerships very, very seriously and know how important it is to maximize our resources. We're really excited to be part of the RWIC, even though it's more of an ex officio capacity. Most of the time, you don't have federal partners that serve on these state committees. Leslie was an advocate for us, and to us, we're very, very grateful to have the opportunity to be able to serve. So again, thanks for Louisiana Rural Water Association. Thanks for National Rural Water Association, our partners, and thank you for everything you do to be able to work with our small communities. Working together, America prospers. Undoubtedly, there's no doubt in my mind. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Castile. I just got notified by Ms. Jennifer Kilkin that Mr. Blake Fogelman, engineer with the Health Department, that is actually assigned to work with the RWIC committee, has just arrived. He's going to come join us on this panel this morning and provide a little bit of information on what the Health Department's role is. And folks, they have assigned an engineer to work with us on some of these projects. So you're still going to work with your regional people, but Blake helps us on a lot of these projects. While Blake's coming up here, I'm going to move on to our next speaker here to my right, Ms. Tracy Watts with CDBG. And I'm going to get her to tell about her program and what it brings to the table for both the water and the wastewater, and some of the guideline changes that they're looking at as we move forward through this process. Ms. Tracy?
Good morning. My name is Tracy Watts, as he said. I'm the director, excuse me, of the LCDBG, which is the Louisiana Community Development Block Grant Program. I'm also the director of the Local Government Assistance Program, which you probably know as LGAP, and then the Community Water Enrichment Fund, which many people call CWEF. So the LCDBG program are federal dollars that are distributed through the Housing and Urban Development Office from the federal government, and we get it as a block grant. As the state, we survey our local governments and ask them to identify their priorities. And I've been working with CDBG since '97, and since that time, it's always been public infrastructure. So the state takes that into account and sets the priorities for the program, and that's why we fund public infrastructure. We have different programs that we use the dollars for. However, all of our programs touch public infrastructure. So for instance, the biggest program we have is our public facilities program. Some of you may have been working with your engineers that were procured to develop a severity application to send to us. Those were due actually yesterday due to the storm. They were due Friday, but we extended it to yesterday because of the storm, or today, I'm sorry. So we take those, and we have an engineer in office that scores all of those. He actually communicates with the cognizant agencies depending on what type of application it is, if it's for sewer or water or streets. And he makes sure that they agree with his severity score, that they don't have any information they need to add, any comments they want to make. And then we will take the top 60% of those scores, and we will invite them to submit a full application to us later in the year. It's a very competitive program. We have raised the limits, the grant ceilings, in order to try to make a bigger impact. Some of the other things that we've done with our rating system, which is how your application is scored, which determines who gets funding, is to add a 4-point category for any applications that are consolidating systems, taking it more than one system down to one. Many of you know we have some small rural communities that have small systems that can't sustain themselves based on the number of customers they have. So if they can work together to consolidate and create a stronger, more sustainable system, then we can reward 4 points to that through the application process. Another thing we do is we've increased the points if a community is going to pay for the administrative work or the engineering work, then they can get 2 points for each of those things in the rating system. That's just in our public facilities program. On our other programs, we have a demonstrated needs program under those funds that serves to help with emergency projects. If you have had something that was unexpected, that was out of your control, happen within the last 90 days, you can come to us and we can use some of those funds to help address that need under sewer, water, or gas systems. We also have what we call the LSTEP program, which is a self-help program. If you have an area that is unsewered or unwatered and you would like to bring them onto your community system, but it's very costly to do these systems. And sometimes when you're going out into really rural areas, it really can't compete with the other programs when it comes to cost effectiveness. So on that program, you work with the citizens, and the citizens actually do the work. You can hire an engineer and use our funds to pay for that. If you have specialty work that needs to happen, like a boring machine operator or a plumber, we require you to hire a plumber to do the connections. You can use our funds to pay for that. But it's actually the citizens that get out there and do the work. And it shows a 40% cost savings over a project that is contracted with a prime contractor. Those are non-competitive dollars, and we can award those on a continuous basis. And then we have our economic development program, and all of those programs touch public infrastructure and to fund public infrastructure. On the state side of things, we have the LGAP and the COF program, which many of you are probably familiar with. Just recently in the legislative session, there were new dollars appropriated to both programs. We're anticipating $10 million being available for this year under each program, which is actually doubled what was available last year. Those applications will probably be released in September and be due in December. What we do for those to determine allocations is we take the total amount of funding available and we divide that by 63, because we have 63 parishes that are eligible. And that determines the per parish allocation. Then every entity that is incorporated within that parish is eligible to apply to us. Cities can apply for 50,000, towns 35, and villages 25. Once we take in all the applications, then we work with the legislators to determine the appropriation amounts for each grant, and then we'll be distributing those funds as well. So I would encourage all of you, if you have projects, particularly under Community Water Enrichment Fund, because those funds have to be spent on water infrastructure. They must be spent on potable water infrastructure. So work with your local governments and your mayors and your council to develop projects that you could possibly apply for. Those are pretty easy dollars to get. Sometimes you may need to pool some different monies together to develop your projects or to work together. Let's see. So as I said, those applications will probably be released around September. We're still waiting on the bond commission to take that up in July. And then once we send those out, we do notify all the local governments about those. So I know that you all work very closely with your local governments, and so you should be talking to them about maybe potential projects that you could be developing. Those 2 state applications are very easily completed. They're like 5 pages. The federal application is much more difficult. You do have to principally benefit low and moderate income persons. So we do look at who's benefiting, and we have to use census data or household surveys to identify that. But all of our communities have pockets of low and moderate income persons. We have communities who don't feel like maybe they could apply to the CDBG program because they're not low mod by town-wide. But you can go into an area in your community and only address that area. Maybe go in and look at, a 4-block radius that has leaks in their water system, or maybe you need to increase your water size, or maybe you're doing a bigger project in your community, but you could come to us for the area that would actually could benefit from the CDBG program. So those are things that you can look at. If you have any questions from us, we'd be happy to help you. I can give you my phone number. It's 225-342-0148. You can call me if you have questions. You can also call our engineer. His name is Jeff Tessier, Tessier. You can reach him at the same number, and he'll be happy to discuss any projects with you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Tracy. Folks, I don't know if y'all taking notes or not, but there's been lots of money talked about, and a lot of it free money, a lot of it grant money, but a lot of contact information, and that's resources that's available right here in our state, folks. I'm going to move on to my left, and I'm going to ask Ms. Sierra Trabo with DEQ to speak a little bit about their program. They are more wastewater driven, but they are part of the committee and very active in participating in the meetings and stuff that we conduct and the surveys.
Good morning. As Rusty said, we fund to either create or rehab your wastewater systems. We fund non-point source projects, estuary management plans. We also fund a variety of green and energy or water efficiency projects, such as permeable pavement. We've done solar panels in West Monroe to run their treatment plant. They're completely on solar panels now. We've done like infiltration and infrastructure project to correct the energy at the pump. We've done a lot of different types of projects like that. I deal with the finance, so if you have any questions regarding the technical part of that, our engineering manager, Scott Tomplay, would be a great contact for you. His number is 225-219-3463. I deal with all the finance and legal part of the program. And so if you have any questions, or you can contact either of us. To get on our priority list, you would fill out a pre-application, and you can find that at our website. It's dq.louisiana.gov/CWSRF. So you would fill out that pre-application, it would be scored, and then we would contact you with an award letter. And from that letter, it would tell you the 3 tracks to move forward with our program. One would be with a bond attorney, because all of our loans are by a bond, a revenue bond of some sort. You can pledge any sort of revenue, whether that be your user fees, sales tax, general obligation bonds, or and then the other 2 parts of that would be a full application with me to do a credit analysis and make sure that you can afford to pay back that that loan. And if we find that you can't, then we'll work with you to see what mechanisms you can put in place to be able to make your projects work. And then the other part would be the plans and specs and the engineering design and all with, and Scott takes care of that part. And so that's it. That's all I got.
All right, thank you, Ms. Sierra. Our next speaker is going to be Mr. Blake Fogelman. I said earlier that Blake's an engineer with the health department, but I want to tell you a little secret about Blake. He was a water operator before he went to work for the health department. Kind of talks the language like Kent was talking about, the language we talk. He knows when we say we ain't got no water, we don't have no water. Blake, you want to talk about your position and how the health department plays into this here?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Rusty. As you mentioned, just a little history on where I come from and how I apparently ended up on stage today. I about 10 years ago, roughly 10 years ago, started in the design world, working at a Fortune 500 company doing designs for a lot of big industry. Quickly went into small town, one engineer firm where we worked with a lot of rural communities are in and around East Baton Rouge, St. James, St. Charles, St. John, going into New Orleans. Excuse me. I did that for about 4 or 5 years. We were based out of St. John the Baptist Parish. About that time was around 2014, and I think last year I was here as the director of utilities and saw St. John listed on a presentation I think Rusty did about the amoeba, and we don't really care to see that because it was not a very bright spot in that time. But I was asked by the parish president to come and take over the utilities after the state got engaged with the amoeba that they found in St. John. So for the past 4 years, I ran 4 water systems and 7 wastewater treatment facilities in collection. I had a well system using RO. I had 2 surface water plants, and I had a purchased water system. So we've experienced quite a bit of the issues that I think I've seen around the state today. When I took over about a year and a half ago, I think the issues came up with St. Joseph water system, and had some very direct conversations with the state regarding how we're going to get ahead of this. And I think everyone sitting at this table today, including LRWA, is what you're seeing. What is the manifestation of that idea? I think they've been working on it for much longer than that, but we're finally able to get in front of you guys. So in that discussion, it was LDH. Once the committee started, I was still at the parish, and as many of you may know, some things are appointed, some people are civil service, and I was an appointed position, and the end of my time there was seeming to come to an end. So I spoke with the state and came on board as a regional engineer. So many of you know your regional personnel, and I would continue to push you guys to talk to them. Those are the ones that communicate with the central office, which is what I'm based out of. So I came on as a regional engineer and quickly got put into a position where I work in the central office as a special engineer. They term it an infrastructure engineer. So that's my official title on my card. What I do is work alongside the RWA committee and kind of do the follow-up, the engineering, the operations, the capital cost. I basically serve as a third-party consultant for you guys, but you don't have to pay me. I don't have a contract with you all. We do that to see better quality water be produced for your communities. So in January, I came on board and working directly with rural water. So I think I've communicated with probably 40 different systems in the state, and are currently working with 40 different systems to try to find better solutions. I'm not part of the loan program, so much like Sierra said on DEQ side, LDH does have a loan program, similar terms, similar conditions, similar requirements. We found, and I don't think it's officially on paper yet, but we do have money coming down the line from EPA this year that is specifically earmarked for consolidations. And that is going to be 100% loan forgiveness, which is something that the state has not been able to do prior to this year, because most of the conversations I had early in the year, the first thing is where do we find the funding, which is also why we're all sitting on this table together, is to try to put our heads together and find funding to support more sustainable solutions moving into the future. So I have all of my contact information as well. What I would ask though is the regional and district staff engineers have been great about pushing contacts and information into my hands to where I can reach out. So I would encourage you to reach out to your regional personnel. They would email me and I would contact you guys directly, just so that I can get some additional background information from the regional staff prior to speaking to you all, to try to get a jump on whatever we're going to investigate and what we're going to do. So look forward to continuing this. This is a new position that LDH is committed to supporting rural water, and I hope I can fill the shoes and continue down this path. So thank you, Rusty.
Thank you there, Blake. So, Patrick, you want to comment on rural water's part in this here? Patrick tells them people to contact me, and I contact him, and then we start working boots on the ground with the water system through rate studies, leak surveys, attending meetings, getting involved. And we've talked all about what this committee can do and what this group has done, but we got a system sitting in the audience. Miss Susan, I need you to bring the mic over here. The Sabine Water District number 1 is one of the, I guess that's the system that I met Miss Leslie Durham at. And from my first conversation with Miss Leslie, I didn't think we was going to have a real good relationship. Because she said, it ain't going to happen that way. And I said, it's got to happen that way. And she said, you don't understand. And I said, you don't understand. And we come to a very good compromise. But I'm asking Mr. Walter Maines if he worked with the committee, him and David, through a merger of the neighboring water system. And I'm going to just ask him if he would comment on what it was like working with the group.
Our system was called into the meetings of this failing water system that people were out of water, I think, for 3 weeks at Christmas time, and it was an emergency, and they was trying to figure out how to get them water, and Miss Leslie Durham and Rusty and Mr. Beebe and all of them was on site trying to meet continually with them to figure out a solution, and to emphasize the importance they thought, I think Miss Leslie was standing in the street talking to governors at 11 o'clock that night when she got to approval to get the money there to buy the pumps to get them back in water. They worked diligent and got them back in water right before Christmas time. And then they worked with our system to provide them clean water. Their water was, like Miss Leslie described, dirty water looking. And so we, through Miss Tracy's system there, they provided a connection of a 6-inch water line, 3 miles between the two systems. And we was able to provide them clean water, and we took over the operation, and it's added 500 customers to our system, and we was able to furnish them good water, and it's been a win-win for everybody involved. The reason we had the water is a few years back we wanted to get off of purchasing water, and Mr. Rusty come up to our system to give us some advice, and we was going to drill a small well, and he told us we need to think bigger, and while we was at it, dig a bigger well, because down the road we might need more water. So due to that, we had excess water, and we was able to provide this need, and it's been good, and it was great to work with the organization, and you know, everything is headed in the right direction because they see the needs, and there's more needs all over the state, and they need our support, and we're willing to do what we can to support them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walter. Mr. Walter mentioned Ms. Tracy and Ms. Leslie, also involved in that transition, that merger was USDA, Mr. Tony Matlock and the staff at the Natchitoches office, and also Ms. Jennifer Kilkin. I figured her husband was going to come hunt me down one night and kill me. You don't start calling a woman at 8:30 at night and say, hey, look, they're trying to put a sheet metal screw in the side of this water tank. Well, it wound up a boat plug before they got finished with it. And that's how severe the situation it got for that water system. And little did we know when we was getting these calls that there was people out of water, the actual office manager had been out of water 3 weeks and hadn't said nothing. But working through the committee, all these little things come out, and was able to work with them and got them a solution, and the water quality changed drastically overnight. But thanks to the partners that's sitting here, was able to work through that there and make that happen. And to be honest, I made a joking comment to Mr. Walter on the telephone of saying, hey, you wouldn't want another water system. And he said, yeah, I may be interested in it. Folks, if you're struggling to make it, and the ends don't seem to make it work out, and you're looking at your customers and telling them, we got a $30 a month solution, we got a $50 a month solution, we got a $60 a month solution, and it still don't work, we got to start looking at other options, because I'm telling you, I was sitting there the night when they voted 127 to give their water system to the neighbors, to 4 people, to 1. One voted for 485 connections to borrow $8 million. We're going to be here all week long. Most of the committee people is going to be around here. I would like to ask now that anybody with USDA that's present, if they would stand up. And I know Mr. Tony Matlock's around the area. I'm trying to get you folks an opportunity to look at who's here. So if you see them in the hallway, you can grab them and say, hey, my system needs some help. Ms. Tracy, have anybody from your group with you?
No, I'm by myself. But I did want to say one more thing. How many of you, when you drive down the highway, even though you know you're going the speed limit, you see a police officer, you let off the gas? Because it just makes you nervous. I do. It makes me nervous. I say all the time, I tell my husband, I don't know why. It's not like my daddy's going to fuss at me if I get a ticket, but it still makes me nervous. And I think sometimes people in your positions, it makes you nervous to come to DEHH for help, to go to your regional engineer and tell them what your problems are, or to come to the state or the federal government and tell them what your problems are because you think that there may be a negative outcome. But I would like to encourage you to do those things. Because of the situation that they had, we were able to help them. We were able to work out partnerships with each other and see where we could all fill in and help each other out. And we're doing that more and more with the RWIC. It's never a matter of wanting to reward somebody and not reward others. It's just to trying to find the best solution for the citizens in our rural communities. And that's what's the most important here. So, again, I would just encourage you to reach out. And particularly when it comes to our program, the first thing we do is go to the regional engineers and ask them about what the situation is. When we get a phone call from a community that says we have an issue, then we reach out to LDH and say, hey, we have this issue, and they reach out to the regional engineers. And so sometimes that also depends on whether or not you may be getting funding from us. And that's why it's so important for you to communicate with them, because sometimes when we reach out to those regional engineers, they don't know anything about your problems. And they're there to help too. So please just try to keep that line of communication open and let them know what's going on.
Thank you, Tracy. I think we're getting ready to finish here. 2 more? Okay.
Ms. Leslie, have anybody with you here today? Boss is coming later. Miss Sierra? Just her. Blake, anybody from the LDH here today? Got a few. Would the LDH personnel that's here today stand up? They're all in the back. They all Baptists, huh? Look at the LDH staff that's here, folks. Hey, look, you're not on their ball court. They're not on your ball court. We're on a neutral field. Good time to have the conversations. Not the battles, the conversations. Miss Sierra's got a comment, and I'm going to turn it back over to Patrick.
I'd like to just back to what Tracy said. A lot of times, like in our enforcement section, if they know that you are working to fix your problem, they will waive your fines if they know that you are actively trying to fix your situation.
I'm going to jump in on that as well. Look, I work for central office. I don't work for the compliance section. I don't work for the enforcement section. I don't work in the field staff. My job is to work day in and day out with water systems to figure out solutions. I lived it. I went through amoeba. I went through AOs. I went through lost water. I went through DBP problems as an operator. So we rolled our sleeves up. We sat down with our regional staff. We got all the way to the chief engineer at one point and sat across the table and said, look, these are our issues. This is our plan to work them out. And I can say, honestly, St. John's in a better place now than they were. And I know they're continuing that path forward. But not knowing does not give us the opportunity to support you guys. So yeah, I encourage everybody to get familiar with their regional staff, speak with them, bring us in from Central. We'll do what we can, and we'll work with Arwick to continue pushing this thing forward. So thank y'all.
Rusty, can I say one more thing?
Yes, ma'am.
A good example about not speaking. I mean, you've heard all of them talk about, got to speak, got to keep that communication open. I know I've lived in a community that did not. They sat there and did nothing for 10 years. That's what happened in St. Joseph. So I'm from St. Joseph. My kitchen has been on CNN. That is not where you want your community to be. I'll be glad to talk to you about that. If anybody wants to know how bad it gets, if your community, your water board, or your mayor does nothing, I can tell you it is not good. So we are here for you. Our funding is here for you, for your communities. And you've got to take this information, take your technical assistance, and use it. And that is our word to you, is we are here and we can work. As long as we are together, we can do this. But we can't do it alone. We've got to be together on this whole matter. And from the top to the bottom, talk to your rural water nose. You know how you go to the bank and you're looking at the teller, she's looking at your account. You can't, say, yeah, I'm going to go buy that Mercedes tomorrow. And she's looking at your account going, no, you're not. We know, we have the data. We're sharing it. We're talking to each other. So get that rate study done. Go ahead. Get rural water in there. They're there for you. LDH is there for you. That's who we're going to talk to before we give you funding. So make sure they have all the information early, because our funding has timetables. So we can get in there quickly, or we can spread it out. You can have a better chance of making it easier on your community. But the faster we have to get in there, the harder it's going to be for you.
Patrick.
Thank you, Leslie. I'm going to turn this back over to Rusty, but I want you to help me thank everybody on the committee. Put your hands together. This is to help you guys and ladies out in the field, so utilize it. Utilize us. He's going to talk about scanning in and scanning out. Remember to scan in and scan out. I said that so much last year that I was telling my wife as she left the house to come back in, scan in and scan out. So here we go again. Scan in, scan out. Have a good week. Learn. Get ready to take the exams on Friday. Here's Rusty.
All right, I'd like for all the water and wastewater people in the room to stand up. Now I want y'all to give yourselves a hand for the job that y'all do. You'll go out the two doors over there by Gil, and I can't see on the other side. Make sure you scan out. Do not go out one of these doors without a scanning device. The classrooms start on the second and third floor. Enjoy the conference. Thank y'all. Thank you, Dr. Castile.
I think so. I think things seem to be doing pretty well. I'm very pleased with that. So this will be like, our trial period